Welcome to Extend Women in Tech podcast. We are a tech community podcast highlighting stories of women in tech and inspiring everyone into tech. We aim to provide a platform for sharing experiences, insights, and success stories that inspire and empower others in this dynamic industry. I'm your host, Terefe.
And I'm Jonah Andersson, and I'm thrilled to have our guest today, a special guest today, joining us live right now to listen to our latest episode. And before we introduce her, of course, she's here watching her, and she's with us live on the video. I want to just like tell to our audience and listeners that we went on video for the first time, and we're not just like calling you listeners now but also viewers now. It's your first time to get to see our pretty faces, Shetty and I, and also our special guest, the first one, the blessed and lucky one to get exposed on our first video episode is gonna be our guest, Aashima Lakhanpal. She works in at Google, and she's joining us from US actually. So we really appreciate her time. But before we go ahead and do the discussion and interview on this podcast, let me just properly introduce her. So we have been joined by a passionate product lead for AI power search at Google. So Ashima develops marketing technology strategies for some of the largest retailers and agency partners across USA and EMEA and even India. With over 12 years of experience in tech and AI, she has been firsthand powerful in technology that actually helps people, that truly connects. She believes that we're facing one of the greatest empathy deficit of our time, and warns that if we're not careful, AI could inherit those same biases and blind spots. That's why she is here with us today on a mission to inspire me, Shetty, and the people, you, the listeners and viewers, and even your friends to relate to her mission. And Ashima has a master in human resources and a background in journalism. It's no surprise that the work that she does is sparkling in any conversations that she has, and hopefully, we're also excited to learn more from her, and what she has to share. Whether it's upgrading her husband's debating skills or changing the way we think about AI and inclusion, one person at a time. So, welcome to Extend Women in Tech podcast, Ashima. We're so happy to have you, and thank you for showing interest to be our guest through our call for speakers. We really appreciate it, and we're glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes,
We're glad to
yeah.
have you, Ashima. Uh, how are you today? How are you feeling?
Good. It's a busy Wednesday, so I'm very excited that I get to share it with this extended group here. But looking forward to it.
That's great. Yes, we're happy to have you, and I know that you have a limited time of like about an hour in this recording, so we will try our best to capture and be inspired, but what you have to share. So we have a topics discuss like planned topics. So, do you want to start, Shetty, on what we want to talk?
Yeah. But first and most, I would like to her to introduce about her work.
Yes, yeah, that's
Uh,
right.
we would like to hear from you.
Tell
Sure.
us more about you,
Yes.
and then we'll discuss more about the
Yeah.
topics we want to discuss.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for the grand introduction. As you can see, I have had a career spanning almost 12 and a half years now, across countries. I started off my career in India, moved on to Europe, and then now America, where I am currently in New York. And as you noted rightly, I'm very passionate about equity and how I see a lot of our kind take to these technologies, take to these new latest innovations. It's been interesting to note as I have come across these three geographies that sometimes we're slightly slower to adopt to some of these tools. We're slightly slower. For example, having worked in India at a time where mobile revolution was just taking place, it was interesting to note how many women came to adopt mobiles pretty late in their lives. And that is not out of lack of interest or lack of curiosity. It is more because of how these conditions or economic conditions have looked like. For example, mobile has been a shared device for so many women that they don't treat it like a learning mechanism. They don't see it as their own to acquire, understand, observe, and advocate. So it's a very different challenge that we saw back then in India. I see that happening again in so many forms with AI, where we're now at the cusp of such a big revolution. AI has become a part of our lives without us introducing it, consciously. We see it in so many forms and so many technologies. But the interesting part is that I still see some hesitation from, women such as myself, and around me that I see around more, which is interesting to note that I would love for them to be using these technologies and be on top of their game. So, what I typically love to do, and because I'm passionate about equity in these technologies, I like to kind of think of having, a simple 3 point framework on, how can you make AI your personality multiplier. So I'm hoping
Okay.
that today, through your podcast, I'm able to share a few, tips and tricks. But that's roughly, my background. Where am I? What do I do? And why am I here?
That's great. Yeah, we're really looking forward to the highlight topic of this episode that you want to share. It's about like AI, artificial intelligence, as your personality multiplier, and learn that from you. It's also great to hear about your story, Ashima. Thank you for sharing. And you did mention your passion for inclusion and like sharing knowledge and inspiration about AI to the women in tech and even to women in India. You did mention that. So can you tell us your story, a background story, how you ended up like working, why, what you do right now, which is not just a normal job either. It's a very interesting career role that you have at Google as well, and like your mission and your why you love what you do. First, of course, your story and why why you do this, why you like inspiring others.
No, that's a great question. To give you some context, when I started studying in India, when I was pursuing my undergraduation and then post graduation, I was very keen to be a teacher. And that was something that I wanted to do, really make a change and make a difference for a lot of kids who could not pursue education. Over a period of time, I realized education is a privilege that so many of us have, and sometimes we don't realize what can we do for folks who do not have the privilege to get educated. So education became a keen part of my lives even as I was studying myself. I felt like if I could get this level of education, so should folks around me. As I started to work with multiple NGOs in India, specifically teaching them the language of English. That was my first job. That was something I was doing, as my passion project. It was enjoying being creative, teaching English as a language. While I did this and while I pursued my own education at the same time, I started to realize that the art of education also inspires me. It gives me some perspective. It's a hobby for me to understand Why do kids learn some things faster than adults? Why do we learn in different ways? As I started to do this, I completed my MBA, my master's in business administration in India from Narsimunji. And while I did that, it was interesting that Google was one of the companies that was, looking to recruit folks. Honestly, I wasn't looking to be one of the top candidates at Google. What ended up happening was that I found this fantastic recruiter at Google, um, who heard my experience, was very interested in, what do I do? Why am I passionate about teaching? What exactly drives me as an individual? And I do not forget her words to date, because she gave me this exciting information where she said, you know what? Digital marketing is an up and coming field. You're so passionate about teaching kids. Think about all of advertising space as a new and upcoming space where everyone is going to be a kid again. We all have to learn from scratch what digital marketing means. So you would be perfectly suited for something like this, where you start to advocate and understand why certain people need to learn what AdWords is, and how does Google Ads work, and what does this paid media space look like, and digital marketing look like. So I kind of transferred some of that energy over to this, and I ended up getting my job at Google after my MBA. Um, it was honestly all that was promised. So when I started my job, I did feel like, hey, do I still feel passionate about the things I do? But honestly, the journey that I started in India, which was again at a phase where paid advertising, digital marketing were relatively lesser known topics, it was very exciting for me to be in Google in India at that point, purely because I could educate. It was an interesting area to be in and say why digital marketing should matter. What should you look to do and talk with your consumers about? And it was an interesting, exciting time to be, especially because we were just getting mobile phones. We were all looking at mobile phone as a tool for marketing, and that was an interesting space to develop. I have been a product specialist now for 12 and a half years at Google. And I think the excitement still remains. It's just the product has evolved. Previously, it would have been a simple digital marketing tool. Today, we talk about Google in so many more spaces. My job today in New York is where I am a search product lead for AI powered search products. It's still advertising, it's still marketing, I'm still selling. But the idea is that, it has become such an consistent part of our lives, that while we think about AI, I'm still being the advocate that I used to be 10 years back. So it's an exciting space, an exciting world. But I think the fact that I got this great chance and someone was able to explain this job of Google to me in as simple words as, you do what you do, and you're just going to do it for a space like marketing, was very
Mhm.
interesting for me to grasp and learn.
Amazing. You're a power woman, as we described as well. Like 12 years at Google from your journey, like teaching the language of English from India to getting hired by Google, leading a search product, like working with AI. That's amazing, and a humble yet resilient and inspiring story that I hope I myself found interesting, as well as for sure our listeners and viewers find like very very interesting as well. So we're excited to learn about what you want to share about AI. But probably Shadi has something, a follow-up questions regarding your tech story. If you have thoughts, Shadi, before we proceed about the AI
Yeah.
personality, that we're excited to hear.
Yeah, I was thinking when you share your story, like the transition to the AI has been like
Yeah.
recently very popular, and I assume maybe you can tell us more. How was it? How was it for you? Like previously, there were like different kinds of techniques to get to get ranked and everything about search results. But what has changed when AI become so popular and in your job as well, in your field and your current place?
That's a great question. Let me try to make it in easier visual path so that hopefully anyone listening and viewing can understand this transition to AI slightly better. In any field, be it marketing, be it HR, be it operations, we've seen AI evolve as the topmost prioritized area of concern, an area of improvement, an area of it's the shining area. And I think what is interesting with all these departments as they start to become AI first is that there is a typical curve. You typically start with, as with any big technology, any big revolution, there is always the first stage, where you're still learning, you're still grasping whether this is for us or not for us. You're evaluating for yourself. There goes the curve as you start to see people around you, your near and dear ones, your closer circle, your users, your consumers starting to use AI, and then you say, "Great, this is." You see that curve rise, and then it becomes a necessity. From a good to have to a necessity where you're saying, "Hey, are we at this point in the curve where AI is something that we should all be talking about, be ready? Do we know what AI tools is the latest? Do we know what things can I use AI for?" And then as we start to see that peak really reach its really reach the top point, is where, which I think is still miles away. We're seeing so much of our AI evolve at this point that point looks further away. But as with any big technology, when it starts to peak is when you realize, okay, great, this is all we have to learn. So this is when it's an wholly fleshed, educational curve, etc. So in my particular journey, as I started working at Google, the biggest change I noticed was how we evolved in our marketing space, because I am heavily invested in marketing. It was very interesting for me to see that, like as I saw in markets like India, which were slightly more under evolved, we were still developing what, marketing looked like. Digital marketing seemed slightly further away to adopt. But as I see in more mature markets like America, we're at a stage where every advertiser is thinking at this point that, for example, if you were one of the bigger stores, a departmental store, any person entering your store today is AI ready. They're already using AI, consuming it in some form, taking a decision about how best to use your product. So there's already a lot of information going around. As companies who look to advertise, this is a big decision. So as I saw my 12 years journey evolve, I literally saw different tools come up, different products come up, different ways come up. But at the base of it, the need for human interaction remains the same. We still want to interact in a better way and relate in a better way. Previously, that tool could have been mobiles. We were fantasized with it. In between, there were more advanced marketing technologies and ad tech technologies that a lot of people were invested in. Now it feels like AI. Can AI actually help us communicate better, help us relate better? That's the point that we are at, and it's still the same need to understand, relate, and empathize better. But can we do that with AI is the question, and we are going to be an integral part of this. As women understanding products, relating to products, using them, giving feedback is going to be so critical. So where I am at this point is understanding that this is an integral part of how we all are interacting, communicating, processing information today, and would love to understand how others also would love use this in so many forms so that we get to a better connecting point with AI.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Ashima. That makes us more exciting also about like learning about AI and different personas or personality also that you would like us to share. Should we go ahead in that topic
Yes.
and switch to that since it's kind of related to what
Yeah.
you previously shared as well?
Mhm.
So, so you want to share about like AI as a personality multiplier for everyone, and you have like top 3 to 5 things
Yeah.
depending on how much time we have, and a lot to share about this idea. So, um, it's interesting just hearing the personality multiplying with AI. So, feel free to share about it, and like maybe we can discuss the point one by one and then do some kind of interaction between Yumi and Chetty, like briefly, and curious about it. Tell us more.
Sure. I like the idea. Let's do it one by one.
Yeah.
Let's get you tip number one first.
Yes, tip number
Um,
one.
but the idea is that we are always looking to get better as personalities. We're looking to evolve our personalities, be it men, be it women. We all have different styles, but we're hoping to accomplish the same thing. Make our selves and individual selves that much better. So when I think about AI and I thought about how we as individuals are, the first thing that came to me, and this has been part of my bio too, is that we're finding it tough to relate over a period of time. We're finding it tough to communicate. We're finding it tough to consume information. And all of that are things that AI wants to solve for. AI wants to be better at communicating. AI wants to be better at helping you get the next best job. AI wants to be better at helping you communicate. So what I'm going to do is, take you one by one into things I think are personality multipliers, and give you one AI tool, hopefully, that you could use so that you get better at evolving that part of your personality. So the first one that I'm very passionate about, and I think is critical given my background as a teacher. So pardon me if you hear this again and again. It's how we consume information, right? And why is that important? We all have different learning styles. As an individual, the way I learn is so different than the way my husband learns. He is someone who is an visual learner. He likes to see things, imagine things. He really likes the space of understanding what could it visually look like. Those things and images grasp his mind. While I, on the other hand, am an auditory learner. I like to listen to things, and that's so interesting because you hear more and you hear different things, and that's how you grasp onto it. It was very interesting because when I moved to Europe, the first thing I picked up on was that it was such a different accent. It was such a different communication style, colloquial language, phrases that took me a while to understand. What do they mean? Why would we say? I spent so much time in Ireland, and they would keep saying, "What's the crack?" And I couldn't understand why would a word like that mean so colloquially accurate for Ireland. So it's different languages, but I realized over a period of so many years that I am an auditory learner. um, if you notice how AI is evolving, you will realize that they are catering to all learning styles: visual, auditory, kinesthetic. And one tool that I think is really helpful personally to me and to my husband, as I have seen it in effect, is something called Notebook LM. If you haven't seen what Notebook LM is, go type it out first today. Go check what Notebook LM does. But a simple summary of Notebook LM is that it is a perfect AI tool because it's giving you the option to upload multiple files. It could be multiple things. It could be your research documents. It could be a whole book PDF that you upload, anything that you feel is an interesting thing that you would like to understand better. What Notebook LM does is it gives you a nice summary, a very crisp summary with insights, and also a podcast generated just for you. So, what that could mean is that I don't have the time to read so many books that I would love to read, over a summer. But the fact that I can plug in a PDF into Notebook LM and ask it to give me a beautiful summary, have discussions with it on what exactly does this mean, get a podcast that says, okay, hey Ashma, you don't have time, but let me tell you in 15 minutes, what does this book exactly want to say? Why is this a helpful tool? Is because think of it, right? You have only 24 hours in a day. You can only consume that much information. We are overwhelmed with the amount of information we get in a day. If I were to ask you, imagine you receive 11 million bits of information in a single day, in a single minute, in fact. And I asked you, what percentage of that can you consciously process? The answer is probably just a tiny percentage of it. 99% of the times things are just happening to you without you consciously processing it. So one of the key things that I feel AI can help you do as a personality multiplier is use tools like Notebook LM to your advantage. You know what kind of learner you could be. Use a tool like this to kind of, consume more information than you could before, and make yourself a more knowledgeable, useful resource. You could be the next best person in the room just saying, hey, I read this book, while all you have is a nice strong summary, but still you could be the smartest person in the room doing that. So tip number
That's
one,
great.
notebook LM.
Yeah, that's amazing. I have not used it myself, but I know that I've heard about it, and it's very interesting. I like the tip. I think I'm gonna like take a look at that. Is it open source or is it free to use for
It
everybody?
is free to use.
Ah, okay.
I will
Yes.
share a link if
Mm?
it's visible in our sheet. But
Yes.
definitely, Notebook LM is something that you can use. Try on your own. Pick up a few links that you would love to summarize. Pick up a few links you would like to analyze.
Yeah.
Book you haven't read this summer. Some research papers you're hoping and you've been piling them up for a while. And see what Notebook LM says. It's your personal
Yes.
assistant for all research.
I'm curious to learn about it because if you notice behind my background here, I have a library of books I read and about to read. And one of them that you see behind me is a book that I wrote, Learning Microsoft Azure for Rise, which is published for a year now. And Notebook LLM, I mean, I like, as a reader, I like reading summaries because, as you said, I even though I love reading books and I can spend my holiday reading with one good book for a few hours, sometimes on my busy days I don't have time and I want to see this interesting book and have the summary. So I like applications that they use it like a SaaS, like software as a service, where you have a subscription and you get book summaries. But if
Yeah,
there is like an AI tool like Notebook LLM that allows me as a reader to get summaries from the books I read, at the same time maybe upload a PDF version of my own book to
yeah,
kind of get a summary and analyze it as a writer and author to probably think what are the topics that I can update for my second edition. That would be also great. And maybe if I want to share a podcast
yeah,
or like a book summary myself to my readers or prospect readers. So I really liked this tool. So I'm sure our audience appreciate this, like tips that you have in utilizing AI in terms of that this kind of files. But how about you, Sherry? Have you used it
Yeah,
yourself?
yeah, I did. I
Yeah.
usually take a topic which I couldn't got the time to sit and read, so I upload it and then I go for a walk. And then by the time I return, I just know some take thing or a new trend that I haven't heard before in a podcast format. So I
yeah.
really like it. Yeah, it is
That's
interesting, and
great.
the way they it is, they narrate the topics, articles are really
That's
as
nice.
humans. It feels
I'm
like humans.
curious.
So
I have a question, Ashima, or Shadi, since you have used it yourselves. Do you know if you can develop with it? Like, I have an app, and let's just say I want to build an app in a programming language that I want to build it with, and I want to integrate Notebook LLM, and where I, as a user or anybody users of my app, can just upload the files. It's kind of like an integration and call it as an API. Is that something that they have and a support for like developers or something to build with it? Or
That
is
is
just like a tool that itself that you need to be there, anybody else cannot build with it?
interesting part that I noticed with Notebook LM was the kind of podcasts they generated was so tone friendly that if I was reading a finance or a sports book, the mode got really sporty. It felt like this person was talking to me in the podcast with, hey, like this is what we're gonna do, and it's so fantastic. And I uploaded a
Great.
romantic novel, which is my personal favorite, and
Mm-hmm.
it got so chirpy, and the tone was so flirtatious that it was almost incredible that it felt like I was reading the book as good as reading the
Oh,
book.
really?
So
Now I'm
definitely
curious.
recommend that even try the podcast feature because it's tuning so much of what the content is. It's processing so much of that
Yes.
content. But yeah,
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing the tip number one, Notebook LLM. Did you have like another things? Like I know you have top few things
yeah,
aside from Notebook LLM. Did
yes.
you have more?
Well, let me come to my second personality
Yes.
multiplier. And this is something that I earnestly recommend to all folks who are trying to prep or prepare for the next big milestone of their careers. You're trying to prepare for that next big interview, you're trying to prepare for that next big job. There's so much research and preparation involved that it's important to understand how to use prompts in AI.
Mm-hmm. Prompt
Only
engineering.
because, exactly, because these are things that can help you get to the next level that you want to. So I have this beautiful story, and bear with me as I.
Yes, sure.
Um, you know, I am in awe of my mother. She's a housewife in India, and one way that I have seen her over the years is she's gotten really creative with how she spends her time. That's been one of the things. Is you think housewives they would be more liberal with their time, but no, she's gotten really smarter about how do I want to spend my time. And one thing I noticed her do is that every time she found a new interest area, she would try to do as much research as she could to understand, what is the next best, thing I can do to upskill myself. Earlier, it used to be for things like shopping. She was so excited. She would want to understand where can I shop the next best thing from, and what happens if I shop from multiple areas, and is Facebook a better spot to shop in? Is some of these other areas and smaller websites a better place to bring in more deals? So she did her own pros and cons and kind of did a lot more research. More recently, I saw her get involved in something that I have historically associated, men to be better at, which is financial investments. Something that I just feel like we have not as well explored. At least, I speak for women, and I say that sometimes we're not as up to date in our games in financial investments. So I noticed her being really invested in financial investments in the last 5 years, and that's probably a great time because that's when AI started to come. And I noticed how did her prompts evolve over a period of time. It was very interesting because she's someone who is new to financial investments. Yet today she has a portfolio that she has built solely for herself. And it is fantastic because she has done all of that purely by researching and understanding how best can I use and understand information that lives today. There's so much information. There's videos and blogs and so many other content areas that you get today on areas that are new to you. So I noticed her do this, and I feel like this is a great one that I would love for anyone listening and viewing to replicate. Is that when you're preparing for the next big move, you try to put yourself in the shoes of the person you are going to be interviewing with, or the person who's doing that job, and try to understand what would they ask if they were meeting you for the first time. This is exactly what my mother did. She was about to meet a financial investment analyst, and this was the first time she was meeting someone like him. She had no clue, what are typical questions I should ask a financial investor? What are questions I can say that I need this kind of returns? Is it okay to ask that I'm looking to get 20% returns on something versus, not asking for anything? Those were all doubts she had. But she beautifully looked at, any AI tool, which could have been, Gemini or ChatGPT, put in
Mm-hmm.
prompts that specifically said, if I were a financial analyst, what would be the first questions I ask a new customer? And this is how she ended up getting a list of 5 questions she knew she wanted to ask this financial broker. Lo and behold, the meeting went fantastic. This guy is now managing her portfolio, which is brilliant. But the fact that, this could be such an initial hesitancy for so many of us, thinking that I don't really know how to explore a field like this. I feel the same about sports. Is this something I really feel passionate about? I could like sports, but I don't know. It seems intimidating to me. So many times you're wondering, when I'm meeting a new person, I'm interviewing for the next new job, how do I use my prompts? So
Mm-hmm.
I request and urge everyone trying to use prompts in any AI tool, be it Gemini, be it ChatGPT, if you're trying to understand how to prepare for the next big move, change your questions to understand what would the person in front of you ask. If it's a job, it could simply be, hey, what would be the top 5 questions you would ask for the role of a program manager? What would be, if you were interviewing for a company, mid-sized to large, what would be the top 5 things you would want to know about a candidate? Change the framing of the question so that you know exactly what you're preparing for. And those are the things that you can take to your preparation areas for the next big move. So that's my
Yes.
next big tip, is to understand that prompts can go anywhere. You need to be
Mm-hmm.
a lot more empathetic, but hey, women were great at this stuff. We understand
Yes.
empathy. So put yourself in the shoes of whoever you're trying to interview with, meet with, understand with, and ask exactly those prompts with these tools.
Yes, that's a great prompt engineering, the proper way to ask right questions. And I do like it. I do use ChatGPT and Copilot,
Mhm.
both for like asking general questions that I want to ask. Sometimes I talk to it on my phone, and then it's kind of like follows my like the way how energetic I am, and then the
Yes,
AI also follows through like my voice and tone, and it's very good because the AI is very smart. That when you ask a smart question, it will actually ask a follow up question back to make you think
yes,
about things that you need to would you like for example, I was looking for a good recipe how to do barbecue in a specific meat because I like cooking, and then it did gave me a recipe, and then I it did ask me like Jonah, do you want me to find good like wine alternatives for that meat that you're trying to do barbecue. So it's kind
yeah,
of like having this conversation
conversation.
with a friend as well. And it same goes also with the way we talk with AI.
Yeah,
Is the same way how we communicate to each other as human beings. It's like
yeah,
asking the right questions so you get the answer that you really want. And I really like the story of your mother in terms of like how to ask proper questions that would help her with the next big milestone in finding the right like decisions and writing finding the right person. And I have a question before I push move to Shetty also, who probably has insights and question. um in your perspective, what is in like in few words from you or your advice, what is like, do you have like a suggestion or good format in terms how to properly ask or prompt a good question to AI? Because I know there are different prompt engineering courses. Like everyone, like regardless if you're a developer or
Yeah.
anybody talking with AI, needs to have a proper way. Like you need to have a persona and then what you wanted to do and stuff like that. But in your experience and you teaching your mom how to do it the right way, what's your like your own personal like syntax, you can call
Yeah.
it, when
Yeah.
talking to AI?
That is a great one. And,
Mhm.
it was almost about to touch into my third tip, but, I
Oh,
think
okay.
this is great because
You
you're
can
bringing
go.
in
Yes.
aspects of communication in there. But I think, the best way to answer any prompt or to think of prompts when you're thinking of, framing questions is that you need to know yourself a little better. I like to do this exercise where I like to do a strengths analysis, a weakness analysis, so SWOT of sorts, if you would, to understand what areas do you as an individual feel like you're good at, and what areas do you feel like you're average at. What that does is that it gives you an idea of how do you want to proceed with communicating with AI tools? How do you want to interact with AI tools? So, for example, I realized that when I did this SWOT analysis for myself, I am great at execution. You give me 20 tasks in a day, I do really well with those 20 tasks, but I'm not as good with strategic thinking and like planning and vision and so on. So what I realized is that I need to be asking AI and AI tools for things that can help me develop those areas. Now, it's not to say I wouldn't use it for communication. The fact that I think I'm good at 20, things I can do in a day, it can help me do those 20 things better too. But it just matters that AI knows your language a little better, dependent on how you have analyzed yourselves a little more. So when I think about this, SWOT analysis, I feel like, for example, when we're talking to Gmail, you're using one of the AI friendlier versions. You have things like Smart Compose, Help Me Write. An interesting thing that came up is I thought I'm great at execution. I can do 20 things. That's how I'm able to send out 20 emails in a day. And that's when I noticed that the AI tool came up with a language recommendation to tell me that, your emails could be more friendlier. And that's not a bad thing. It changed the tone, it made it more chirpier. It said, hey, we would like to do XYZ. And I realized because I'm so execution focused and I'm so, dependent on my mindset, I know it's a strong trait, it's a strength for me. But the fact that I actually invested in hearing what an AI tool could tell me about some of these emails helped me understand that now when I put in a prompt on AI, it is to say, can you write a friendly email asking them to do 20 different things? It's simply you changing your language because you are used to a certain way. You're changing and evolving to become a slightly more evolved personality, but it works beautifully well. Reverse the story. I see my husband, he's not great at execution. Execution is definitely not one of his strong suits, but he is really good at strategic thinking. He does a good job of like visualizing, interpreting things. And I have seen him use AI to complete so many of his things, things that he would be, throwing them back. Now AI has given him a voice. So when he uses some of these, email tools, they give him a response that kind of, is really helpful to understand how to get past some of the basic communication things that he would take, really long for. So he uses a tool called Grammarly. Great. It's fantastic because he's been able to insert it into his daily emails, use it for, his personal communication. Sometimes he uses it a lot to draft things. But one key thing that I think is also a tip here is that you're going to be communicating so much, and you're going to be communicating with so many different people. It could be a person of a different, race, color. It could be a person of a different nationality. It could be a person of a different, gender. Uh, it's not a bad thing to know and prepare for these things when you're communicating. It's not a bad thing to understand that, hey, I would love to know what am I getting into. I'm meeting someone here and I do not know what that language could look like. I noticed a gap in my communication style with my professionalism. I felt like it was too much on spot until I realized, hey, I could use AI to make my language more friendlier. So, tip number three, do a bit of a SWOT analysis for yourself so you know where to use AI. Sometimes that's step number one in a way, because you're thinking, can I use AI for emails, or can I use AI for consuming information, or can I use AI to think big, help me create the next product idea that I would love. All three approaches are right, but knowing your strengths can help you identify where do you want AI to help you the most with.
Yes, that's a good advice, doing SWOT analysis when you're working with AI. How about you, Shadi? You kind of like capture the second and the third in relevance to each other. Yes, and I know that you're kind of like also limited with the time, so we're
Yeah.
gonna try to wrap this up. I was thinking about everybody, you have work and meeting as well, and it's also getting late for Shadi and me. But Shadi, probably you have a follow up on the two tips in terms of like prompt engineering and making sure that you're adopting this like your personality and the strength and the weakness with AI. Any thoughts on that that we can
Yeah.
answer,
Mhm.
Ashima?
Yeah, I was thinking about as the AI models evolve, how is it this prompt engineering will change, or do we need still that skill, or is it just a short term?
Yeah.
Will it? Yeah, that's
Uh, Good question. Let me give you an example. I asked one of the AI tools to imagine an AI ready professional. And the fun fact was that it gave me images of senior men, it gave me images of, folks in blazers and young women. But, nowhere did it give me slightly senior woman at all. And one of the thoughts that came to my mind is that AI models are being created by humans who have their own biases. It is not abnormal for humans to pass on their biases onto these AI models. Now, is bias a bad thing? No, it's not. Biases are just the way we operate. Like I mentioned, we're probably processing consciously just 40 million bits of information compared to the amount that we're given. So, knowing that we're consciously and unconsciously processing 99% of that information, I see AI being flawed in many ways. But the good part is that with any other technology, any big revolution that we have seen in the past, when women such as ourselves, when other groups that haven't used AI start to contribute to what this model could look like. For example, in this case, I know that now we're seeing an AI professional as a certain way, but if I used more of AI and gave more examples, hopefully the next time we ask AI to generate models of an AI ready professional, it would be much more than that. That's how this will evolve. So this prompt engineering is going to change only when more users are factored into this. And that's why I am passionate about the fact that we bring in people to use these technologies first. I am no stranger to the fact that sometimes, men take to technologies faster, like my husband, he was prompt on AI. While women, on the other hand, are risk averse. Our mentality is to think a lot more about, should I be doing this? Is this the ethical way of doing it? Is this the right way of doing it? And sometimes we hold back on technologies because we think it's not correct. So, my hope and my ask is that when we're thinking about prompts, there is no right and wrong because we are equivalent users of these products. It would not be a wrong question to ask AI to develop who an AI professional could look like, but it's also important to say, hey, you see that feedback button, press that and say, no, it's an incorrect result. And I would love to share what more could you do with an AI first professional. But that prompt engineering for you is going to evolve so much more. today I notice that men are more comfortable asking questions on, AI tools, like, knowing all that you know about me, can you suggest what should I do with this problem, versus women being more direct in their queries about, hey, can I think about 10 more recipes of, how would this work. I feel like the nature of the queries might be similar, but the approach that they're taking to asking that questions is still different. So that's how I see this approaching. I feel like it should be a place where you feel free to explore, understand, use it to your advantage. And that's why, I usually do this, personality multiplier session. But, that's my recommendation, is that it's going to evolve. It is flawed, but that's how biases work. They get better when more information from other underrepresented sources come in. And that's the hope that we hope to do with, podcasts such as yourself.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
that's very interesting. Thank you for answering that question. It's also an interesting question you have, Shetty. But it's interesting. I know one of the things, the challenges, even in IT, both in you, we are all working in IT, like big companies. Like you work at Google, right? Uh, and I'm a developer. I speak a lot about Microsoft technology, cloud technologies. Shetty works with web a lot, but I really like the idea that you have that in order, I mean, first we like without AI, we have a challenge of inclusion already in different like men's dominated careers such as IT, but we also have this challenge of gender bias in AI. Like for example, my name, Jonah. In US, it's a male name, commonly male name. And the first time I asked AI who is Jonah Anderson, like
Yeah.
like it the AI thought Jonah is a he because
Correct.
commonly across the web, Jonah is like the prophet in the Bible.
Yeah.
Jonah is like a football player in the common male baby name. So after I kind of like also, as he said, leave a feedback on ChatGPT or whatever AI prompt I talked with. I tell them that Jonah that I'm asking about and you're referring to is not actually a male, and she's a she. And then now, after a while, like after months, and then I asked again, "Who is Jonah Anderson?" She's from Sweden, and like I didn't even mention she, like Jonah Anderson, who wrote this book. And then now I realize, like, regardless of what AI sources is, it actually says Jonah Anderson is the author of this book. She is a developer. So I agree that also correcting AI and feeding the right information that you ask it when it tells you, it kind of like hallucinate and tells you wrong, is
Yeah.
a good way for us underrepresented
Share feedback.
like group
Like,
to make a difference in my perspective. So that's a good tip, and I hope Shetty you can relate to that when you're conversing with AI, because AI can be stupid also.
Yeah.
Sometimes in giving us answer, we have to admit that we need
Yeah.
to teach AI, because as you said, the AI the answers that AI give us, it's actually from the data that we feed it
correct.
in.
It is
It's
all
like a
resources
yeah.
built in, and those resources could just not be representative of us.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Go ahead, Shetty. I know we need to wrap up soon, but go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, we need to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
I have multiple questions remaining, but I will let, because we don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you would like to say? I think we have to stop here.
Yes.
Our questions. So, what do you want to say to your any initiatives you have,
Yes.
any events you are going to, upcoming events you gonna have, gonna speak, or you want to share with any listeners or viewers right now, if they want to follow you or get advice from you.
Yeah.
uh, the floor is yours. Yeah.
Thanks so much. It has been a pleasure having, the time with both of you. It's been superb. I think there's just one cause that I have been very passionate about here in the US. I would love to share the link if I get a chance. It's an NGO that I work with closely. It's called Star Legacy Foundation. I am the chair for the New Jersey chapter. It is a cause for child loss and cause for bringing families that are grieving. But I would like to end it with saying that AI has still a lot of work to do because we're yet to come to fields like NGOs and nonprofits. And I'm hopeful that, this next venture for me, where I'm bringing a lot more to this NGO, I'm able to drive so much more with, the AI tips I give overall. But yeah, this is where if you're really hoping to understand what this NGO does, I would love to connect. But yes, that's the initiative I would like to mention.
Yes, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I mean, if we could just like talk a lot about like the topic that we discussed, I think we could go on more than more than an hour. But our time is precious, and we do appreciate your precious time joining us from New York, from the U.S. Probably your work day this morning, your time. So we do appreciate so much of your time. And to our listeners and viewers, please listen to this and share this to your friends that might find this topic or discussion interesting, especially if you're someone that's adopting AI and want to learn how to use it better the proper way. So thank you so much. And Shetty, any final words before we end this episode, both the for the audience and viewers?
Yeah, I mean, we are sorry today that we couldn't ask a lot of questions you might have. Maybe we will have her again next time when time avails. So I would like to say thank you for making this time to be interviewed and share your experience with our listeners and viewers. Um yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that's great. We will be sharing the links that the NGO foundation that Ashima has shared and some links to her connection, like to if you want to connect with her, we will share her profile and also her LinkedIn if you have further questions and learn more about what you do in Google. But exactly, we will probably have part two of this on the upcoming episodes. But Ashima, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for our listeners and viewers that are tuning in. Once we have released this, we will spread it out and spread it out yourselves as well. And if you're someone who knows someone that has a story to share, an inspiring story to share within tech, anybody is welcome to reach out to me and Chetty on LinkedIn. And have a great day, everybody, and see
Yeah,
you again on the next episode. Thank you so much, Ashima.
Thank
thank you.
you. Thanks so
Thanks.
much.
Bye.
Bye.